Welcome back to the Gleam fishing channel. It's still a murky morning here, a June morning, a little bit chilly, a bit wet. Now today's guest, we are very lucky to have him, and he probably won't agree, but John Bennett, the great John Bennett, or the Iceman, has been fishing for a long time. Foundation father of some of those remote fisheries like toothfish. Just looking through some of the things here, he won a Golden Albatross Award presented in Hawaii for your care of seabirds, which is really bloody amazing. Caught a lot of you will remember the 10-metre colossal squid, which was, in various museums around the place. And also what we'll talk about is you did a bit of a rescue voyage for some fishermen stuck in South Georgia during COVID. So welcome, John, and it's absolutely a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Darren. It's good to be here. And, it's been a good journey, and I've really enjoyed it. I'm proud of what we've done and achieved, and look forward to sharing my story.
We're really keen to hear it, and this will be pretty popular because you're a well-known celebrity in the fishing industry, I've looked at, you sent through some information. Some of your stories, you're worthy of a podcast series on your own, because you got such a wealth of amazing stories. Your life has been pretty cool. I guess I've fished most of my life myself, but I've looked at your stuff and thought, wow, that's pretty significant. So I guess we'll kick it off from the beginning. I guess, John, like what I normally ask all of my guests is, when did you start fishing? What were you doing? What was your bit of a career path that took you through to, I guess, the toothfishing, the Patagonian toothfishing in Antarctic waters? So what's your upbringing?
Well, I'm born and bred in Nelson, and we've lived here all my life pretty much. Went to Nelson College, made it that far. I didn't get on in college very well. I think I was probably accused of sort of laughing a bit louder than I should have been. So relished the opportunity to leave school and do something else. And my father particularly was a keen yachtsman, him and his brother, and they spent lots of their time at the Nelson Yacht Club. So did I. So I started sailing P-class and fin, crewed on a Flying Dutchman, and owned a fin. I've always had a real connection with the water, and the opportunity to sort of go fishing and be on the water was something I just sort of really lurched at. So I left school when I was about 16, and started in the scallop fishery. And back in those days, it was sort of start 5 o'clock in the morning, and the first job was to get down on deck and make up some wooden cases to put scallops in for the catch at the end of the day.
I remember those well, the old wooden cases to put the scallops in. Yeah, they were a bit of a task in itself, wasn't
That's
it? Really?
Right, yeah. So that was good, and that was in the boom then. So we're talking 75, and there were about that many boats in the fleet, 75, 80, probably more. So I did that for a season. And then on that boat, the St. Nicholas, Grant Godsif was the skipper. Him and Grant and Chris decided they were going to take the boat to Fiordland and crayfish the St. Nicholas. So we headed down there after that scallop season, and in tow we had about a 20-foot fiberglass runabout that was going to a scoop boat, we called them, with 2 outboard motors, 2 40-horse Johnsons on the back. And pretty much worked between Doubtful Sound and Thompson and the outside of Secretary Island. So I don't think that area had been fished for crayfish very much in those days. So we were catching some big old stompers in the shallow water.
Back at the very beginning, I guess.
Back at the early stages. Yeah. So
yep.
and then we came home after that season, and my dad said, "Well, son, if you're going to be a fisherman, you might as well be a good one and learn it properly." So back to school.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll just just for the viewers, you'll see we're actually down the wharf. We've got the Kathleen's just pulled up, and there's a bit of activity. We've actually got a concrete cutter happening in the background, so we apologise if the audio goes skew with, but we're in a working port, and that's what we like to see. So, sorry, John, back to you. So, crayfishing, yep.
Yeah. So crayfishing was I enjoyed that, and I once again my father decided that his advice was, if you're going to be a fisherman, I want to be a good one, go back to school. And at the time they were running a cadet course, and there were quite a few of us in that hooked up to it. They taught us all sorts of things from, everything to be a good deckhand, and introduction to fishing. Even taught us how to cook. They took us to Nelson College and the Girls' College to teach us how to cook. I'm not sure whose idea that was, but anyway, I still can't cook. But there was.
Well, you probably don't want to, maybe. Nod, wink, wink. Yep.
Yeah, it was a good project and a good course. It was a good grounding. So I came away with that, with a renewed enthusiasm about what I wanted to do. So then I went and got my coastal ticket, and then the next thing I'm sort of looking at a boat to run for Rex Sellers, actually, the Sharon. Rex had been down in Fiordland previously, crayfishing, and
she's still fishing out of Nelson today.
She's still fishing today, yeah.
Still going strong.
She is, yeah. So I took her down there for a season. That was a good challenge for a young fella. Just got his ticket, and we did okay. Lost a few pots in the shallows when the storms came, as everybody did. But I think we had about 75 in the end pots that worked through out of Bly. Between Bly and George was my favourite spot. So then I came home after that. Meanwhile, Rex is away doing his yachting, of course, and eventually his gold medal.
That's right. I actually remember that. Yeah, I was a young fella, and I think that was in the height of the scallops, wasn't it, out in Tasman Bay and that.
Yep.
And I remember, Rex was fishing alongside us, and next minute he was a gold medal winner. So
that's right. Yeah,
the whole sort of industry had a bit of a dose of pride that day.
He's a bloody legend, and anyway, but he's still about. Yeah, I think
yep,
he's
still about.
He's good. So came home from that season, and then launched into went down again down to Fiordland, crayfishing and lining on the Spindrift, my cousin's boat, Graham.
Yep,
so he moved on to another boat. Yeah, so we were lining for groper and bass there, and taking the bass out over the Milford Road to Invercargill. The missus would come through from Te Anau and with a big trailer and get a load of snow at the Homer Tunnel. Come down with load into that.
Cheap ice.
That's
cheap
ice.
idea.
Yeah,
excellent.
And then fill them up with snow on top on the way out.
Yep.
And so that was the early '80s, and it was sort of acceptable. I don't know if it was good, but anyway, that's what we did for a season or so. We got quite a few ton like that. Yep. And once again finished the season catching albacore out of Greymouth and Westport. So and all sorts of challenges involved with that. But it was about then that I crashed my truck into the Hollyford River and busted my ankle real bad. Luckily, nobody else got hurt. So it made it hard for me to stand up on a small boat. So
so much movement, hey? Just quick movement.
Yeah. So looking for a bigger boat. As it turned out, Solander Fisheries was just getting involved with the tuna fishery at that stage. And the Daniel Solander was coming in into Nelson. They were looking for crew for that. So I got myself in there as a second mate, and we started on the Bluefin tuna saga on the west coast. 10 years I was with Solander. So the deal was pretty much that we processed fish from smaller boats, and we caught our own fish as well. So we sort of mixed that, and then they were frozen to minus 60, and the fish were taken to Japan. We couldn't unload into refrigerated containers because with no minus 60 containers back then. They are
That's
available
a lot,
now.
Minus 60.
Yeah,
it's
very cold.
Minus 30, 35, isn't it?
That's what the market requires, so yeah, we took. I think the boat took about 4 loads to Japan. I think I was on board for 3 of them. Wow. Old mate Carl Fry and I took her up to Japan one trip. The other trips were done by Dick King and other foreign-going skippers of the day.
So just so people know, that was the Southern Bluefin, wasn't it?
Southern Bluefin tuna, yep.
Yeah, because we were down there, I think it's the Dorothy May and Nimbus back in the day, and we were handlining for them.
Yep.
So, and I remember every morning, we'd fish all night. Well, I would fish all night, and others might have slept and enjoyed the rest in peace. But while the young fella was up, but you get them during the night. Normally, I think we got most of our fish between midnight and 3 a.m. on the old hand line. 100 kilos, 140, 150 kilos, whatever they were. And then every morning, we'd all line up and go next to the Solander, which obviously you're on, the Daniel Solander, and chuck them over, and away they went.
That's right.
And then you would actually steam them off to Japan.
So when we got about 350 tonne down the hold there, we'd take them up to Japan. So I think when we unloaded at one stage there, or the first time, of course, we were the first foreign flag vessel to unload tuna to the Skidgee market in Japan. There was a wee article in the local newspaper about it. So so that was quite an achievement, and everything had to be done exactly the same way as the Japanese.
Pretty
high
standards.
Representatives on board that checked the quality of the fish and how we were cutting it, and everything we did had to look just the same as the Japanese had done it, which is the correct way anyway.
Yes.
As it turned out. So, but that was really cool, and lots of good challenges as that. And then we also went to Australia, and we took fish off the Persainers in the Great Australian Bight there, and processed them into a sashimi grade of fish, a little bit smaller, but still, that was a good profitable operation as well.
So you pick up the kiwi fish, so operating down the west coast, and then head over to Aussie and sort of top up, and then off.
Yeah, that was
a
separate operation. But for sure, yep. And amongst and other activities with the Solander group was Charles Hufflett got us involved with resupplying the Met Office crew at Rowell and Campbell Island. That was pretty cool, different and exciting. Yeah, so we're taking fuel down to both islands, and to Rowell we took a helicopter with us, and
on the vessel.
On the vessel, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
so
unusual cargo.
Yeah, the Daniel Solander had a helicopter pad on the stern,
That's
which was
right,
primarily put on for exporting bluefin tuna with fresh fish to the market, but. So we went to Rowell and we flew the drums of fuel off the boat to the island, and all the stores and equipment, of course, and then brought the other crew back. And then Campbell Island was similar. We didn't use the helicopter down there, but we have lots of aluminium filings for the balloons, for the hot air balloons that they sent up in those days.
So what were they using that for? So aluminium filings.
So they used that, produced a gas that made the balloons fly. But I don't think they do any of that anymore.
Oh, the helium. Maybe they mixed it with sodium hydroxide or
That's
something
right.
of that nature, and
Yep.
made helium to fill the weather balloons.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So darn sight more challenging than just squeezing it out of a cylinder like we do these days.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, that was cool. I enjoyed doing that, and and then that got the bug in me for doing research and something different. That was not quite. Normal fishing practice. And then I had a wee stint in the Solomon Islands, managing a couple of Persainers up there. I didn't really enjoy that. It didn't really suit. The job was more than I could handle. They needed more of a marketing person and that. So I came back to New Zealand and then took the Daniel Solander into the Pacific, chasing albacore, unloading in Pago Pago. A couple of years at that was exciting. Big long trips, 110 days or so. Longest trip we've done there.
I was going to say, like, listening to, and I know, in your later years, a lot of long trips. It's gone. So you moved from the day trip, the day boats to 130-day trip boats.
Yeah.
So there's quite a contrast. You've sort of seen it all, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. And then of course communication was tricky. It was all done through Sydney radio and rad phone calls and those sorts of things. But now, of course, you know, you've got your phone on you all the time, and everybody's got Wi-Fi. But so yeah, we're quite remote, and once again, you needed to have that good sound relationship at home, taking care of things so you didn't worry. And you know, I got married and I know she's watching now in '85.
we can edit that later if need be. So we're all on the same page there, John. Yep.
And but yeah, I mean, Susie's been a tremendous backstop for me. And then she started coming to sea with us. She obviously came to sea with me in the early days when we were longlining out of Milford, and she could cut sharks like they were going out of fashion. And,
it's a perfect. Yeah. It's a perfect woman. Sorry if we offend anyone, but I mean, hey, if they can cut sharks and bait a hook as well, then that's quids in for sure, isn't it? Really?
That's my Susie. And then and she came ling fishing as well with us when we got with Sanfords and the automatic baiting systems, and did some long trips to Antarctica and South Georgia as well. So she knows what goes on and what's required, and it's been
probably a good thing too, eh? Like I noticed a lot of the vessels, have more and more, females on them, particularly the factory vessels and that, and they bring an air of calm, sensibility, quality, and just calms the boys a bit, eh? So they really have a place to play on some of these bigger boats and the longer trips. So it's a great opportunity for male and female, really, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's a good grounding, yeah, for sure.
So you started, so that's a pretty impressive. I mean, you started scalloping, then you're off doing the crayfish. You obviously you had the Row Island, Campbell Island. I mean, a lot of those places are places that no one would ever visit or dream of going, or probably, to be fair, some of the viewers have probably never even heard of them. Because and so you've been around the globe and seen some pretty cool things, but I guess one of the, we've probably all seen you on TV doing various things, but, fishing in the ice. So the toothfish. I mean, you were one of the I guess the founding fathers of that fishery. So, tell us a little bit about toothfishing and what do you do down in the friggin' Antarctic regions? I mean, you're fishing amongst icebergs and all sorts of crazy things. I mean, what's that about? When did that start, and what do you do?
Okay, so I got the bug for longlining after I came back from the Solomon Islands, and we started catching ling on the Chatham Rise with the Solomon 2, and I quickly realised then that quota was king. The company that had the most quota, ling quota in my case, was the one that I wanted to work for.
Smart man.
Yeah. So it was time to make a move. And Sanfords were just getting into the longline fishery with a new boat arriving, the San Aotea, and I put my hand up to run that, and I went on to her for about 8 years or something, and we fished the Chatham Rise and all around New Zealand, and we chased tuna on here as well, Big Eye out of Auckland. And it was in about 1987 that we heard the word toothfish.
Yeah, it is a reason. It's funny.
Toothfish.
I mean, when I was young,
yeah,
I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. So it's sort of a newish.
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting older now. It's not that new, but it's a more modern fishery, isn't it?
Actually, old Andy Smith alerted me to it. Actually, he said, "Oh, JB, have you heard what they're doing in South America around Cape Horn? They're catching these bloody toothfish. They're nailing it. They're doing well, So became the talk of the port behind the scenes. And we got a research permit to go and have a look at catching toothfish on the north of Macquarie Ridge, which is in the New Zealand zone. Not the Australians have the lion's share of it in the south, and New Zealand's got about a 50 or 60 mile bit that sticks into our zone. So we went out there, and sure enough, we caught toothfish, but it was tricky. It was very deep. The currents were strong. The bottom was foul. So yeah, we were keen to give it another go, but we wanted somewhere else. So then a partnership was established between Sea Lords and Sanfords to go down to Antarctica to have a look for ourselves and see what we could find. So that started a big learning curve back then in '98.
Brand new fisheries, brand new ground, brand new everything, really.
We found fish. The first thing we saw when we got down there, we'd just steamed south of 60, and holy crap, we spotted an iceberg. So I'll never.
So for a Kiwi, that's quite a moment, isn't it?
That's right. Yes. Well, yeah, crikey. So we recorded it and reported it to the maritime authorities.
Thinking you're doing the right thing, and this is an anomaly. This is the only one we ever see. Yeah.
And 2 days later, I was still going south. 2 days later, there's more bloody icebergs that we can count. So I thought, oh well. But meanwhile, they're still calling this iceberg as a marine hazard. For another month.
The old Kiwis that hadn't seen an iceberg before made a big drama, and you're sitting in amongst another 20,000 of them a day later.
Exactly. Yeah. So we went down there with strict protocols for research requirements. We had observers on board and specialists, and we had to do this and that, and go here and go there and try around.
Well, science is the key, right?
It is, yeah.
And it's it's a science-based fishery, isn't it?
The early stages, we had to develop the fishery before we could say that we have one.
How long just going back a bit, so how long was the trip from, say, I assume you left Timaru to when you saw the first ice? I mean, is that a couple days, a week?
That was 3 days. That was 3 days to see icebergs.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
And then after that, well, you're getting into the ice edge, and if it's we get down. The season usually starts on the 1st of December, and the ice is just starting to retreat about then, or open up and break up, and so then there's more ice than you know what to bloody do with. But you have to work the seasons, the time of year. There's no point going down there in March and April when it starts to freeze over, obviously. So there's a very small window of opportunity to get in. And the grounds are there's 3 or 4 different types of fishing areas. There's the hills in the northern area, and then there's the bank, the Mawson Bank and the Island Banks, and then there's other areas to the east and west of the Ross Sea as well. So over the years, we researched all those spots, and then the fishery grew. 2 new boats, the Sanaa Tier 2 and the Janus were brought in, and then the Sound Aspiring.
Is she the newest, the Sound Aspiring?
For Sanford, since then there have been many new boats built now. I took 2 or 3 down there over the years. I spent most of my summers in Antarctica, about 20 actually in a row.
Wow! So you spent more time there than Shackleton probably.
Yeah. Oh, well. Yeah. But so that was all the good challenges that go with it, and keeping up the research and complying with all the regulations was a biggie. I got it wrong a couple of times, and we got questioned, and in one case we got dragged over the coals and serious fraud office people, and but we convinced them that it's the environment that makes the decisions, not us.
Yeah, and that's an important point. I mean, survival is key in remote areas like that, but it is the most regulated fishery on Earth, without a doubt. As you said, you got government observers, and there's international treaties and agreements, and I understand you go to, part of CAMLA and that you go to Hobart every year pre-season to set the rules and the quotas and all those things.
That's
so
right.
It's and I guess it's in a pristine area, so we want it to be science-based and managed effectively.
Yep.
So I assume up there you're long lining, right? So you're long lining. What sort of depth? I mean, is there, how many hooks? How's that all work?
There are regulations about how deep and shallow you can go, and you've got to keep within the boundaries, but no shallower than 500, I think, and no deeper than 2,200.
So that's metres.
Meters.
So it's getting down there a bit, 2,200 metres. It's not like you're in the Hauraki Gulf long lining for snapper, is it?
No.
Yeah.
I think 12 to 1400 metres is probably the regular range, but there are certainly areas where it goes right. You can catch fish. I've caught fish down over 2,000 metres, and a targeted fish at 1,700 metres. So that's it's getting down to a mile.
That's a long way to target.
It is a long, and you've got to land. There's a lot of problems associated with getting a line to land just where you want it, with currents and all that sort of thing, and then getting it back up again. You can't just drag a line, put it on a winch and haul it up. You've got to work with it, with the elements, the currents, and
that's pretty deep. So I guess with the what's the day in the life? I've seen a lot of photos and videos. We see Kiwis and other nationalities fishing in these sort of Antarctic regions, and what's a day in the life? Is it as beautiful as it looks? Is the wildlife as amazing as it is? Are you just head down, bum up, doing the job? Or what's the day in the life of a tooth fisherman in the Antarctic region?
I think it's a beautiful place to work for sure. And when you're in the ice, it's quite calm. And the ice keeps it calm. It might be blowing 25 knots, but the boat won't be moving.
Oh, that makes sense, because the ice has settled the sea down.
It just settles. It's going to be like a lake sometimes. And, of course, later on in the season when the ice clears away, it gets rough as well. It's like anywhere. But usually the weather's pretty good once you get in there. 24-hour daylight, of course. The sun's up at midnight. And fantastic opportunities for photographs. Always the light's changing, and there's always something different to look at. Lots to look at as far as wildlife's concerned. There's seals, penguins, and leopard seals, and lots of whales. Quite a few seabirds, not as many as we have up north, of course, but we have light-mantled sooties and petrels and lots of birds, but not as many as we do in the northern regions.
Yeah. So just touching on birds, so I see that you were presented, I think it was the Golden Albatross Award for bird safety in Hawaii. So tell us about that. What was that all about?
Yeah, well,
and more importantly, did you actually get a golden albatross? Because there'd be a few bob in that.
yeah. Well, it's not gold, but I certainly got a lovely wee trophy. But yeah, I received it anyway on behalf of work that my crew and management, and we'd all done actually. It's quite a big thing. It's nothing one person can do. It's a vision that we need to change, and there is some stuff we could do, which we did, and we proved that there are ways and means of avoiding incidental bird capture, and yeah, I think we've made some really good changes and stuff that was sensible and needed to be done.
Yeah, and good that you did it, and it's recognised on an international stadium. So kudos. Yeah, absolutely. There's no I in team, but you're the man with the hand on the wheel, so you got to take a little bit of kudos out of that.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No, and encouraging the guys and inspiring people to do the right thing, and that's just nothing more than that, really, doing the right thing.
Yeah, yeah, and that's. Hey, it's what we all try and do. We don't get it right 100% of the time, but we all try and do that. So you also let's talk about colossal squid.
Yep.
Which is an unusual topic.
Yeah.
And I'm sure many people have potentially seen it, but you caught at the time, I think, the largest colossal squid ever caught. So tell us about that. What's
that was pretty cool journey, that, and I still often think about it, and but it was we caught it down in Antarctica. It was down here somewhere, on the I forget the name of the place, on the Island Bank anyway.
Yep.
And
So Island Bank, how many miles roughly south of New Zealand is that?
It's about 1,200 miles.
1,200 miles south of New Zealand. Yep. Sorry. So Island Bank. Yep.
Right in amongst the ice there. So and yeah, he just turned up in our line. It had grabbed onto a toothfish, and of course, we had observers on board, and the first thing was that, crikey, we've got to keep that, So and we did. We rolled it up into a IBC actually, and brought it back, and then of course they were fascinated with all sorts of aspects of it. But it turns out there are lots down there, and over the years I've caught 3, and most of my mates that have worked down there have all had an encounter with one. Several have been caught, and lots of evidence of colossal squid attacking toothfish and vice versa. Lots of toothfish coming out with squid inside them. So there's an ongoing battle.
War zone down
there's
there.
There's a war zone down there. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's fascinating.
But yeah, no, it is, and even over in South Georgia, there's which is over here, which is where we started fishing in 2003, and out of the Falkland Islands. So there's colossal squid all around Antarctica.
Interesting. I assume that's why the whales go down there, and it's all big food supplies, and really food
for sure.
Chain.
Yep.
So how big was it? Like the squid?
It was like half a ton. It was a big piece of.
Well, that's some decent squid rings right there, isn't it? I'm pretty sure I could tackle those. Yeah, excellent. Yeah.
Yeah, no worries. So, but yeah, and I still get. Actually, a couple of years ago, I got another call from a guy in Birmingham, actually, with some photographs he wanted me to sign of the squid. He'd collected up some clippings and that, and well, why not? But pretty cool, really. There's still people that are quite passionate about that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I saw it in Te Papa, so it was in Te Papa in Wellington there for a period of time. So it was like, I guess to the fishermen it was just a big squid, but there's a big queue of people around it taking photos and a lot of buzz. And I think you mentioned it went crazy on social media too, didn't it? It was the most popular thing on the internet at the time.
It was, yeah, today, and in its day it was, and yeah. So it went to Te Papa, and I think the display is actually here in Nelson now. The squid isn't; it's in storage, but the rest of the display is here at Nelson.
Okay.
So,
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, well, that's something to check in if you're in Nelson going to look-see.
Yep.
So that's it sounds like a pretty cool place. I mean, when I talk to people in the seafood industry and fishermen, and I sort of ask them, what cool things have you seen in that, and they all come up with the whales and the seals and the dolphins. So I mean, the marine life down there'd be pretty spectacular without a doubt, wouldn't it? I guess you've seen everything.
It is, yeah. No, it definitely is, and the Ross Sea is an amazing place to work, and just
be cold though. It'll
very
be cold though.
It's very cold. Yeah. No, we all got the good kit.
Yeah.
But often we've been stuck in the ice and not been able to go where we want to because there's too much ice. And we're there at the early part of the season, so we're waiting for it to thaw.
So you're literally stuck in the ice, can't go anywhere. It's like waiting for an ice block to melt before you can move on, sort of.
Pretty
thing.
Much, yep. So and then you back out and go and find a different bunch of ice to try and push through or work around, and it's like a big maze, and you just have to work your way through all the clear bits. And our boats aren't icebreakers, but we can break a little bit of ice, especially that time of the year when it's all slushy and soft.
Yeah. So it's like a slushy rather than ice cubes, which makes quite a bit of difference from what I'm hearing.
Yep.
So you also had, I understand that you're involved in a bit of a rescue with some of the Sanford boys during COVID. So what you had to undertake a sea voyage to get some crew, because obviously they're stuck due to COVID.
Yep.
Tell us about that. Like, where did you go? How long did it take? What was that all about?
So in 2003, we got a license to fish in South Georgia as well.
That's by the close to the Falkland Islands.
That's close to the Falklands. So we sailed from Timaru and all the way across through to the Falklands, and then go from the Falklands down to South Georgia. And had our season down there, so we've been doing that in the summertime, or the winter time. In the summertime we're in the Ross Sea, and then the winter we'll be over here in South Georgia. And 2003 was when we first went there, so we'd been over in the area for quite a few years. And then COVID came along, and that made travel and repatriating crew very difficult. It was, so I was due to start a trip, and myself and my crew would fly over, through Chile and down to Punta Arenas and across to the Falklands. But obviously we couldn't do that, and the boys there couldn't get back.
Right in the lockdown phase.
They were locked down, and everyone was locked down all around the world. So the easiest way to do that was for me to take my crew on the San Aotea 2 over there, and then carry on we'd swap crew, and those boys would bring the San Aotea 2 back. So it made their trip another bloody month longer, because it takes a month to steam from Falklands back to Timaru.
That's a long time, isn't it? That's
a
long voyage. Isn't
going
it?
against the weather, going west is the pits, really. It's the hardest job. Yep. Going east about's not too bad, which is the one we had. But yeah, that sort of solved that problem. But yeah, it was a good thing. It was good at Sanford. It cost them a lot of money.
It would have, absolutely. Not many companies would back their staff like that.
No,
That's
they did.
Good.
Yeah, no, it was the right thing to do. There's a couple of crazy things, like when I wasn't on board, because I went on to the South Australian and carried on fishing the next part 2 of the season. Yeah. And Shane Cottle, the skipper that was on, he brought her home, and yeah, like everybody, we had to do the lockdown thing for 14 days or whatever it was. Yeah. And they'd been a month getting home, of course. Yeah. And then they told them to anchor off out of Timaru for a fortnight before they could come in.
I remember that. So they'd been together on a boat for a month, and then weren't allowed to enter the port for 2 weeks due to lockdown.
That's right, yeah. So there's crazy stuff like that. Everybody was getting affected, and it was pretty sad to see that. But yeah, that was a good thing. It was a good thing to do. It worked well.
Fantastic. How long was the trip? Port to port, was that? So a month each way, I guess.
Oh yeah, no, going.
So how long would the boys have been away from home?
Going from Timaru to the Falklands is about 21 days, and if you can't go the Great Circle, which is the shortest route, we've got to stay outside 60 because that's going into Camelot. It requires another licence. So we come around the rum line, and then we're not allowed to go into the Argentine zone because of the old conflict. And so we've got to stay 200 miles outside Argentina and stay out of the 60 Camelot zone. And there's a gap down there of about 50 miles where we've got to aim for to come through and up to the Falklands.
So it's a maze then, isn't it? So it's
like
a series of corridors in the middle of the ocean.
And of course down here in the middle of the Drake Passage, it's pretty shitty weather. And if you're going west, it's miserable. Coming east is not too bad. You can sort of run with a big sea.
So talking about the weather, I mean, you've operated in some pretty remote places around the world, and I noted that you mentioned a trip where you lost a couple bridge windows or something. So, we've all had those moments, those wish I wasn't here moments, or am I going to get there sort of moments. So what was yours? I mean, what have you seen? What's some of the scary trips or biggest seas or events you've been involved in?
I think one in particular was on the Louisville Ridge, which is up here somewhere at the Louisville, and at the time we were taking Bluefin tuna to Noumea to unload it into a minus 60 reefer there, and we were going to do some research on the way just to see what was out there. So we'd heard about the Louisville Ridge. I think it's turned into quite a significant fishery since then. And we wanted to set some trot lines around the top and see if there were any grouper and bass, which there were, all quite small actually. But so this is in the mid-'80s, and we still don't have GPS like we knew. We had a satellite navigator with a position every 4 hours or something, and DFs and all that sort of thing, and no charts for there, so we had to make our own charts. And the weather came up crappy, and I had some crayfish pots on board as well, so we had the crayfish pot set. I can't remember. I think it was about 90 metres.
So a bit of an upwelling, isn't it?
Yeah, and we're right up on the top. So we didn't have any lines in the water because it was too rough, and the weather was coming up, and we thought, right, we'll just spend the time making sounding runs and getting an idea of this hill, so we know when the weather goes off, we know where to set. And so the storm came through, and it was bloody huge. And of course, one of the runs I wanted to do ended up going over the top of the shallowest bit, which is the worst thing I could have done.
Uplifting, the swell gets bigger.
That's right. Should have stayed right away from it.
Yeah.
But that was a massive sea, and it was quite frightening. It lifted the boat up just about. It didn't broach us, but it was pretty close, and a big sea crashed onto the stern of the boat and up onto the helicopter deck as well, and bent a couple of things. But nothing was no more danger than that. So we learned a big lesson that day. But that was definitely the steepest, nastiest sea that I can recall. And then not long after that same trip, we were heading to Noumea, and we stopped to fish on some seamounts that were south of Minerva. They were volcanic, and we wanted to have a look at that. So that was an interesting period in itself. So we once again, no charts. We're doing well to find the place, really. And the bottom came up, and yep, that's good. We set some lines, and we caught some peacock rock cod and a few other bits and pieces. They all tasted of sulphur. You could smell the sulphur in the air from the volcano that was venting, you see. So in the daytime, we saw it over there, and, we don't want to go near that because they're probably dangerous. And come the time we were going to haul our last line and move on to the next spot, was probably going to be Noumea. And obviously the currents had changed, and what I had marked on my chart was where the vent wasn't there. It was somewhere else, and we steamed right through the middle of it, and the boat sunk down. And the Daniel Solander, this is, we already had a couple of 100 tonne of product on board, and it sunk down in the water, and we actually had water coming in through the sea door across the deck.
Because you hit, I guess, the oxygen coming up, the bubbles coming up, and it's basically a hole to the seafloor, isn't it?
Aerated water, no buoyancy.
No buoyancy. Oh, yeah. Crikey.
So the whole boat shook and shuddered, and it popped out through the other side. I
had a moment to reflect.
It was a moment. It was a bloody what would Batman do now sort of situation. And anyway, we got out. I put the hammer down and chugged out the other side, and the old Japanese buyer that was on board, he was on, and he said, "Oh, Johnson, not so good, not so good." Not so good. So anyway, but yeah, we worked through that, and yeah, as I say, went up to Noumea and unloaded and back down to New Zealand. But we were always looking out for areas to try fishing somewhere different, and I really enjoyed that aspect of what I've done is the research, and we did a lot of research in South Georgia and South Sandwich, which is further down as well, and just looking for more opportunities and getting a stock assessment, understanding where fish come from, how fast they grow, where they migrate to and from. Different species in the north. You've got there's two different species of toothfish, Morsani and the other one, and Alacnoides, and sometimes they mix, other times they don't. So yeah, and figuring all that out is
that's where your science has been good. You've been involved in it. You probably know more about toothfish than most people.
We've had a lot of guys come through with all sorts of briefs to collect different types of data. We started a tag and release program, which was very popular for the whole fleet in the early days. So toothfish, you can bring a toothfish up and tag it and put it down in the water, back in order, and it's unaffected. Its eyes aren't affected.
No barotrauma.
No bladder. So, and we've caught fish a few days later that have been tagged, and other fish have travelled vast distances. So it's been
still feeding. You catch really a few days later, they're completely unimpacted. They're still feeding.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's incredible.
Yep. And we did a lot of work with whales as well. So sperm whales are a big problem in the South Georgia fishery, and it's nothing to wake up in the morning and find like 9 or 10 sperm whales swimming alongside the boat and plucking toothfish off our line.
So it's the dinner bell.
Like grapes off a vine, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and there's only one thing you can do, of course, is move away. Either stop fishing and shift to the other end of the island. And yeah, other times, if there's lots of fish, excuse me, if there's lots of fish down there, we can work together with the whales. Yeah. But other times the whales are in a different mood, and they decide that they just want to take every fish that comes off us. They're smart creatures.
So it's a bit of a share of catch arrangement. Then I've heard that a bit with with orcas as well. The old killer whales, particularly the guys bottom lining for blue nose or puka or something. And you'll get 100 fish will come up and you'll just get 100 pair of lips or 100 heads and nothing else. And I know guys have steamed 100 miles to get away from them, and they set the line and then go to haul it in the morning, and the old orcas are there and just waiting for breakfast. So,
No, they're very clever. I've got a lot of respect for orca, and they're quite smart. And they're becoming a bigger problem in the sperm whales now. Some of the pods are like 50, and we've tagged the odd killer whale as well. We were tagged sperm whales with a specialist from Canada came down, and we just wanted to understand more. Took biological samples from them to see what they have been eating, and it's toothfish and squid. So it's all good. It all helps to give us an understanding of what the dynamics of the fishery, which are important, and which is and for the crew as well. So they're all fully involved and engaged with what we're doing, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, well, the research is the key, right? And I guess it's with any new fishery, there's a lot of science goes in to make sure it's sustainable, and you can, like I said, a shared resource. So that we probably need an allocation to killer whales and sperm whales for the next quota output, something like that. So with your so you've predominantly done a lot of long lining, I guess. So you've done ling, you've done shallow water, you've done deep water. There'll probably be some recreational fishers that are watching this. And have you got any? I'll put you on the spot, and you may or may not. Have you got any? What's the secret to a good long liner? I don't want you to give away your trade secrets,
no.
but what for those people that are listening out there, and there's a lot of wreck fishers out there that go and buy a Burns Co. Or a quality equipment long line, and they all sorts of, they have varying results. But what a man like yourself, JB, that spent a lifetime long lining, is there any little tips you might want to share?
Well, for a start, you never give up. Always have another go. But I think understanding where you are and what you're trying to do and what else is down there competing for the bait is a good thing, because quite often with the cameras that we've taken to sea, we've been looking at lines and fish on the bottom. We're fascinated by lice, how much they can clean up a bait, things like crabs and spiders, and they just go and they grab baits pretty quick. And of course, once that happens, well, your fish is not going to get a look in. So apart from those sorts of things, which affects your result, and you think, oh God, what have I done wrong? There's no fish there. Well, there might be. Try again. But I would say the biggest thing is a sharp hook and a good bait. And a lot of people, go for the fancy rods and the flash boats and all those sorts of things. In fact, the sharpness of the tip of that hook and the taste of a good piece of squid, I would never go past squid for bait.
Well, that's pretty handy information.
Yeah.
Fresh squid, I suppose.
Squid.
You see some of this bait you buy and she's quite pink, and you sort of open it up and go, well, I wouldn't eat it, will a fish, sort of thing,
And don't buy a cheap hook, because it's all about the tip. And if it's a good hardened tip, it'll catch, because it's not like it's you're hanging onto the line. You can bed the hook in when a fish bites. On a long line, it's sitting there static. It's got to catch itself. So, that'll be my message.
Yeah, well, that's probably pretty handy. You've probably just increased the average longline fisherman's catch significantly, because you're right. I've seen it. You go and set a long line, you throw the old long line in the shed over winter, and the hooks are a bit rusty, and it might be those Ziki-Jimi type little hooks or various types, and you do quite often, the hardcore and the fishermen that know, they're out there pre-season with a file, aren't they? And they're just filing that very tip up to make sure that it sets properly.
Dead right.
So, and good fresh bait. Well, we know live bait's obviously the best, but fresh bait is really key.
And depends what you're trying to catch. No, that depends what you're trying to catch too. But
So with the you spent a lifetime fishing. You're recently retired. What has your career fishing done for you and your family? Like a lifetime in the seafood industry, the fishing industry, what's it provided to you personally and those around you?
I think lots of good mates, and I've been to sea with some great people, and really good. And I think I don't really feel like I've done a day's work in my life. I just feel as though I've done what I've enjoyed, and I've been supported to do that with obviously my wife and family, and the guys that I've worked with. So yeah, that's been motivation enough for me. And yeah, I have fond memories of what we've done and what we've achieved, and don't regret much at all, actually.
And it's a good place to be, isn't it? Like, and a lot of people that are been in the industry, it's the friends, it's the family, and obviously the income. You've fed your family and that. So what next? So because I know that you and Sue went to sea together, so
Yep.
so you're a pretty tight unit, and it's a great John and Sue,
Yep.
and that's how you're seen in the industry. So that's really important that that you guys are both an awesome team and legends to the industry. So what next for you two? What's the next crazy adventure? Because you've done a few.
Yeah, I'm the one with all the crazy ideas. Susie's more with the level head.
Pretty standard for husband and wife, yeah.
But I've still got an ambition to cruise in the Pacific. I'd like to do that for maybe a year or something, and just do all the local spots up there, Tahiti and around the spots, in a yacht. But yeah, other than that, we've got plans to check New Zealand out with a camper. And sort of go to all those places. Obviously, we've been driving around the country, but you usually go from A to B. You don't stop and smell the roses on the way, so to speak. So we'll have a go at that. We have got our family batch in the Sounds, which we spend a lot of time with. We love it down there. We enjoy getting out and catching our 2 cod at the Chetwoods, and yeah, spend a lot of time gazing at my old photographs, thinking about what the boys are doing, basically. And we can keep in touch now all the time with WhatsApp and those mediums. It's great, actually. Good.
Yeah, keeping in touch is key, and it's the ongoing family and the connection. And I bet like the industry owes you a debt of gratitude, because you would have mentored, trained, supported a lot of crew that are probably now mates and skippers, engineers, all those things. So the John Bennett legacy will live on, and I know companies like Sanford and that certainly have had great benefit out of having you involved. So I mean, I guess from the Gleam Fishing Channel, I want to thank you for today. It's been bloody awesome. We will get you back at some stage, because I'd love to dwell down. I know, for example, I'd like to learn a bit more about some of the whaling stations down in Antarctic and some of that stuff, because that would be bloody great story. So thanks for coming, and absolutely enjoy your well-deserved retirement.
No worries, mate. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm keen to chat about anything involved with fishing, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll hold you to that. So
okay.
Righto, so thanks, that's it. So that's John Bennett. So if you liked what you saw, please subscribe. That's what keeps us going, and it's important to us. And we'll see you on the next one.